Hi, my name is Bill Mason from Mason & Mason. This is real estate from an attorney's perspective. And today we have my friend Janet Manno with us here. She's the relocation director at Signature Premier Properties. And she's going to tell us a little bit about the relocation process, something that I don't know very much about, and it's a lot of questions about it. So I appreciate you being here today. And why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me. My dad made me get my real estate license at 19. He was a realtor himself. And I thought it was a ridiculous idea. Fast forward 40 years, and here I am, a broker.
Wow.
And I've been doing relocation now for 37 years. I just joined Signature last year, and I'm growing their department to bring in all the business and different kind of relocation and referral opportunities for the agents.
Wow, 37 years. That's a hard time. I didn't know that you've been a realtor since you were 19 years old. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
So this the whole process, I think people don't really know how it works, and it just, you've heard of it, but you don't really know what it is. So could you just give us a brief overview of what corporate relocation is?
Sure. It's really a corporate relocation is when a company needs talent moved, or they're expanding or closing a facility and they're moving somebody to somebody. So they're offering benefits to an employee in different ways, shape, and form, such as selling their present house. They're going to give them an idea of what the market looks like before they even sell it. They're going to give them somebody to walk them through the process so they understand how to get it market ready. They're also going to, once they're getting their house ready and they're ready to move, they're going to start talking to them about moving companies and how to move and what companies they might offer to pack all their belongings up, or they might just hire the mover, but that'll be part of the package. And the transferee gets a chance to go to their new location. So they give them normally 1 or 2 house hunting trips. The first trip is really to get to know the area, and the second is to buy a home. So when we're talking about an agent, we're bringing someone in for a weekend. An agent has to be 100% ready for that person because they only have 2 days. And if you think about Long Island and all the communities on Long Island, trying to picking a community in 2 days on Long Island, and the second time you're going to be buying a house in that community.
Wow.
So there is a lot going on there. The household goods, a lot of the times they'll send them in and be able to pack the stuff up, or sometimes they'll make the option of just getting a pod. Because it does cut down costs sometimes, and packing the pod themselves and having it moved to the new location. They also, when they look for permanent housing, sometimes you might find a fractured family, which means a husband or wife goes first and stays in some temp housing, and the wife will stay behind. But they get a chance to acclimate to the area, to get to know the area because a lot of people, when they're moving children, the first priority is schools. If they have a parent, they're talking about maybe, assisted living facilities. Or in general, they might have some hobbies that they're involved in that they want to get to know and make sure they wind up in that community with those hobbies, close to a gym, might be in a quilting circle. So there's a lot involved when you're moving because every single relocation is going to be different. And this is all done through coordination of a consultant, a realtor, an attorney, a title company. So they kind of bundle it all up to help with the relocation move.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts.
Uh-huh.
Even more than I expected. All right, so I understand that basically, so this is sort of like a package you get from your employer, right? And there's 3, I guess, tiers of how they usually handle it. Could you speak to that possibly?
Yeah, the 3 tiers most of the time, really, once again, depending on how much you want the employee. The first one is really, you can come, we're offering you the position, and we're going to give you a lump sum of cash, which means they're going to give them $75,000, $125,000, and they're in charge of their whole entire move, meaning they're hiring their own real estate attorney, they're hiring their own movers, they're doing their own house hunting trip. They might, take the kids for a vacation to the area they're moving to instead of just being flown in for a weekend. So they're handling it more themselves when it's a lump sum package. They are still getting some benefits, but it's a financial benefit only. It's no assistance.
Okay.
The second one is the fully covered package. It's when they want somebody desperately and they're going to give them everything and then some. Sometimes they even pay for private school for the children. But they're going to be giving them everything as possible, such as paying for their house hunting trips, reimbursing them for meals when they're on those house hunting trips, giving them maybe a third house hunting trip, paying for their commissions, paying for their closing costs. So there's a lot involved when we're talking about the fully covered package. And like I said, that's kind of the richest package, and that's where that person who they want, that's where they're going to focus on with that package. The last one is a managed budget package. And what that means is there's going to be some relocation assistance, which means they'll say, we picked an agent for you if you'd like. This is the agent you can use. but they're going to be responsible most of the time for their own commission. They might get a reimbursement at the end. So they're going to be handling it. They're going to get the offer of here's the services you can use with a little bit of a discount, but there's not going to be someone as much as the fully covered package going to be handling it as well.
Okay, and I think from talking to you, with that last package where the person has to kind of choose their own vendors, that you've come up with this program. I think you kind of invented it, called the Affinity program.
It's an affinity or a perks program.
Okay.
Yeah, because what we found, and it started when relocation started back, I want to say about 15 years ago. We saw relocation kind of starting to drop off, and especially during the pandemic, everyone was able to work from home, and a lot of people chose to leave the state and work from another place. So this gives them the ability to, with the affinity program, what we did is we bundled up services, and I guess that's how we met years ago, is because you were part of the affinity program.
Mm-hmm.
We bundled services. So I went to a couple of moving companies and said, hey, if I give you 100 buyers this year, how much of a discount can you give them? If I send you 100 to an attorney, if we also give a little bit of a rebate when they purchase through us. So with the affinity program, even though they're not getting relocation benefits, we're offering them perks that deal with the relocation move and the move. So if somebody with a lump sum might take advantage of that affinity program because, like I said, it's a bundled set of benefits. And what we found is a lot of the local companies, they may relocate somebody and give them all these benefits, but their local people aren't getting those benefits. So we've approached the local companies as well and said, hey, I know you're moving people and you're giving them benefits through relocation, but what are you giving the local people that have been sitting at the desk for 20 years? Mm-hmm. So that perks program also can they can use that as well.
Right.
So it's a perks affinity program, and it really is working well.
Yeah, that's an amazing benefit. And just to, with all these moving parts, just to have someone say, hey, this is a mover we've used before and they're good, or this, so you're not just taking a shot at it or,
mm-hmm.
Spending all the time on it to add to the stress of the move, right?
And you also find a lot, like as you move along, you find, oh, we have a need for this. So we had somebody who needed to move turtles. And they didn't want them traveled, they didn't want them packed. So we did a little research and found to put washcloths over them, and you can keep them in a car for a while in their tanks. So we found a pet moving company because we knew that was a need we had. So every time we find an extra need, we'll find a vendor to put in that program. And the thing is, it works with agents too, because agents have relationships similar. I'm sure you have relationships with agents. So they might have a vendor that they say, hey, I helped bring this program in. Can I add my vendor to the program? So it customizes it also to the agents as well. They can be part of the program and help offer that to their clients.
Wow, that's great. And they're people familiar with what the people are going through, So,
well, as I told you, the only thing above relocation is death and divorce.
Yeah,
so it is the third thing on a stress level, quite a bit. So
yeah, I think you told me one of the things you did too was counseling for kids, right, in the moving process.
Well, that's what we find a lot is that, especially when we're talking about a junior or a senior, their life is over because the parents are moving them. But there's a network of kids that actually can call into a number and talk to each other. Kids who have already done the move and said, you know what? I have a great set of friends. This is the best move my parents ever made. So they know that there's, kind of light at the end of the tunnel for themselves, and it's not a terrible move. And there are kids in other areas and people they can talk to and get the support they need. Because, with kids at any age, it's a stress level that they don't understand because the maturity level's not there to cope with the stress.
Oh, that's
so
great.
The kids kind of offer each other support, which is nice.
So if you had to break it down into like the key things that you have to think about when you're involved in a corporate relocation, what would you tell an employee?
Well, the first thing is to familiarize yourself with the package. Mm-hmm. Know exactly what's included so you can focus on what you need that might not be included. Mm-hmm. But if you're getting a full package, it's really, you don't have to worry about much. But it's even the timing you want to make sure. The second thing is making sure your house is priced correctly. I had a woman years ago said I put a $90,000 chandelier in the house. And really, no one, take it with you because no one's going to pay $90,000 for it. So make sure your house is priced correctly. But when relocation, if you actually have the full package, they're going to make sure you do it because they send 2 brokers in. They do an 11-page report, kind of like an informal appraisal. If those reports are more than a 5% spread, they're going to bring a 3rd broker in because most of the time, the time frame on a relocation is about 90 days. They have 90 days to sell their house and move to the next area. So you want to make sure that house is priced right and it's priced ready for the market. And it's not, something that the homeowner is saying, well, there's $30,000 worth of a floor here, or you want to make sure it's priced for the market because they're under a timeline. And a lot of the times when they are relocating, they're getting a benefit if they hit that 90-day mark. there's an additional benefit if they make it within that time
Who
frame.
gets the benefit?
The transferee,
Oh, the employee.
the seller. Oh, yeah,
okay.
exactly, and the employee. So the other thing is you want to coordinate the move. You want to make sure you don't want to you don't want to leave the same day that your furniture is moving.
Right.
Because a lot of the times the furniture gets stuck on the road, and for 10 days you're living out a suitcase, which is one of the tips I always say is pack an emergency suitcase with, if how many people, forks, knives, spoons, a change of clothes, just so you have something you can grab your hands on quick if you had spent a couple of days without your own stuff that got stuck someplace. And then also finding the right city. I mean, a lot of people come to the areas for different reasons. They love the ocean, they love the water, they love the city, they want to be walking distance to a town. So when you go, I always tell the agents after you've met with the transferee, give them kind of a map of the area and send them someplace for dinner so they can kind of drive around and see what the area looks like, because everybody knows what area appeals to them. I always have a transferee say to me, I want a really good area. But I'll be like, well, what do you consider a good area or really good schools? I mean, I had somebody that was in a Division II school for football. That was a perfect school for him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not an Intel Award winner, then maybe you don't want to go to that Division II school. So it's really getting to know the schools, and they do allow you to make appointments. It's getting to know the areas that it's going to be good for your family. And just make sure that you know everything about the relocation move, because there is, like you said, a lot of moving parts, and it could be very smooth. Or if you don't understand it, you can always go back if you've got the full package to a consultant who can explain it to you. Or that's why I'm a relocation director, is because I help take that stress away from them and assure them, don't worry, I've done this and I can help you through it.
And so you had said that the typical relocations in 90 days. Like, what happens if, I mean, in this market, everything sells, but what happens if it doesn't sell the house in the 90 days? Does the relocation company buy the house, or?
Sometimes they did. They don't do it as much now. What they've been doing, a lot of the corporations, because it's not the relocation company, it's a corporation, and the relocation company is buying it for the corporation. They will buy it when it goes under contract. There aren't a lot of what they call they do amended values instead of inventory properties. They used to buy it, but once again, it depends on if they need you, they will buy it.
They'll buy it,
There
right.
are a couple of properties that within the last couple of years were empty, vacant properties that they bought from the transferees. But most of the time, because the way the relocation is going, they're waiting until it goes under contract, and then they'll buy it from the employee or the transferee and let them move on before it closes to the new area.
What's nice about the thought of having two appraisals on the property and a third potential appraisal is when the transferee goes to buy something out of state, they have a pretty good idea what their house is going to sell for. So they're, not going to get caught with, not having enough money because they had to undersell the other house, I guess, right?
And that's also what the house hunting trip is about. It's to make sure that you can afford what you want. If not, you come back and renegotiate. Say, I just look at 5 houses that my family is typical of what I live here, but I'm going to need another $50,000 to make the move. So also that first house hunting trip is going to help you negotiate. And like you said, now you know what your house is worth when you bring that agent in. So now you know what you're looking for, and now you know what you might have to negotiate for if you have to do a little bit more negotiating for the job position.
If you don't move in the 90 days, is there a penalty, or how does that
No,
work?
you just most of the time lose the little financial extra they give you,
Incentive.
the incentive they give you. Yeah, it could go longer, especially if, because a lot of the times they'll say, a relocation company will tell you what you're going to list your house for.
Right.
If they let the transferee for the first 30 days try it out on their own, the clock is ticking. And the transferee might say, can I try for the first 30 days, $50,000 overpriced? And the agent will let them try, say, I'll do it for 2 weeks, and make them sign something saying in 2 weeks we don't get offers. But once again, the clock is always ticking. So the transferee is eating up time when they possibly might not want to.
Wow. How many relocations? What was the most relocations you've done in a year?
I want to say about 1,600.
Get the heck, 1,600 in 1 year?
Yes.
Wow, that's.
We did my first move was Northrop Grumman. In '87, they moved 7,000 employees down to Florida. So I did that. My last group move was, and I also did the Federated Bloomingdale's move when Macy's and Bloomingdale's merged, and that was a pretty big move. We brought Symbol Technology in. When Symbol Technology came in, I rented buses, and we put the families on all the buses, and we put 2 agents on each bus, and we drove them through the areas. So there was a lot, because I do a lot of group moves, and that's really, and my last move before I left my last company was Northrop Grumman. It was 600 listings, the last 1,000 people that left the island.
Wow, that's serious.
So there is a lot of relocation business. Like I said, when I got my license at 19, and when I negotiated to be a relocation director, I said, how much business is in relocation?
That's funny. That's what I thought about when you told me about it the first time.
Yeah. And last year, the company I was with, I did $4 million in gross company income
Wow.
just
That's
on Long
amazing.
Island. So, I mean, there's a lot of businesses, a lot of moving parts. There are always companies looking to move. I mean, Lidl's is coming in and they're bringing people in.
'Cause that's a supermarket,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Yeah.
supermarket. JetBlue, when companies are moving in and out, we did a lot of group moves with Goldman Sachs because of all the financials moving down to Miami. So there is a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of relocation.
Wow. And you were just saying you've been an agent, you said, for 39 years, is that what you said?
Yep.
And so right from the beginning, this is what you started with.
No, 2 years I worked for my dad in his real estate, and
Okay.
then I came into relocation.
Wow. That's some
Yeah.
some history with it. So you pretty much got to be the expert on it, right?
Well,
That's pretty
relocation,
good.
and it's funny because like I said, I could talk about it because I'm very passionate because
Sure.
it's something, number one, I feel like I'm helping people all the time because they are dealing with a lot of stress. I mean, I had a girl who was expecting 8 months and had to change doctors, and I had an agent whose son was working at Stony Brook at the time in the pediatric center. So he knew all these women who were expecting, so I put her with the group. And she, to this day, I get a Christmas card, and she's still with that group of moms who raised their kids together and made a lot of friends with it. So I feel like I always kind of add something to their lives. And I hear about a lot of the transferees because some people are professional relocators, which means they'll move, and then 2 years later they move again, and they move again. I had one couple come in and out 4 times in Long Island. They moved to, Florida, they moved back. They moved out to Arizona, they moved back, all with a relocation company because sometimes you're getting a sign-on bonus as well.
Wow. I moved one time and I said to my wife, not again. It's a lot of work. Could you imagine doing it that many times?
No, I can't.
I can remember the deals that I did with you. You were amazing at dealing with the people and the personalities and the stress of it and solving a lot of the problems that were not related to just doing the closing, just related to getting down there and starting my job. And, it's a lot of work.
It is.
It really is.
But like I said, when you find something you love, and like I said, relocation is such a different, when I tell people I'm a relocation director, I get the kind of blank stare.
Right, because people don't really know what it is.
Exactly.
Or what's involved with doing it.
I mean, I even had my boyfriend for 12 years was like, she does real estate. And it was just like,
It's just easy
no.
to say that.
Even my brother once in a while, when my nephew first went to buy a house in Texas, he says, I'm working with an agent. Why didn't you tell me? He says, well, you're not licensed in New York. And I said, no, I'm licensed I can sell in every state. I have an associate down in the area. So once again, it's just an education. People start learning what you do and like, oh, wow, that's a different job. And
Right. So that was going to be my next question. So you will handle relocation anywhere in the country?
Yes.
So you're not limited to certain areas. Have you
Not
ever done one internationally?
Quite a few. When my last company, we were with a big, large international firm.
Wow.
So we were able to do England, or 40, we started at 42 states. I think they finished, or 42 countries. I think they finished at 70 countries they were covering.
Wow.
So it was a big. I actually just last week sent somebody listing over to Canada. I'm working with somebody in Canada.
That must have a whole separate list of issues with work visas, I would imagine, and all kinds of other things,
It does.
right?
And what we did is, in my last company, we had somebody doing something called settling in services. It was not a real estate function at all. So what they did is somebody needed a visa, someone needed to go to Social Security. She had a group of consultants that's all they would do. They would go to Social Security with them. They would take them to get their driver's license. They would help them open a bank account. And these people spoke, I want to say, 22 different languages. So she'd say, I need a consultant that speaks this language. And then she would match them up with the transferee coming in. And during COVID, I mean, Social Security and trying to get a visa was crazy. She'd spend hours on the phone. But once again, these people, they'll ride the subway with you. So if you're working in Manhattan and you need to ride the subway, the consultant will get on the subway and teach you every single train line you have to be on. So it was another service. Like I said, we saw a kind of a hole we needed to fill. So we had settling in services, which is also another way to help people acclimate to the area.
That's amazing. So that's a lot of experience. Let me tell you, more than I even realized before we did this. So could you just tell everybody how they could get in touch with you if maybe they're going through this or they're about to go through it or a company is thinking about doing this? I think you'd be a great resource for people.
Sure. I'm at Signature Premier Properties.
Okay.
My email is jmano@signaturepremier.com, and I can be reached at 516-457-6330.
Okay. Janet, I appreciate you coming here and talking to us today. My name is Bill Mason from Mason & Mason. This is Real Estate from an Attorney's Perspective. I appreciate you watching today. And if anyone who's watching this video would like to come on as a guest with me and you think you have an interesting topic, please reach out to me. I'd love to speak to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.